On a normal day in the suburbs, Johanna wraps something up in a sheet before throwing it in the trash. Meanwhile, her daughter Claire rides her bicycle around the neighborhood with her dog Max. When Claire returns home, she looks for her mother and screams when she discovers Johanna has self-deleted in the attic. Many years later, teenage Claire wakes up after dreaming about her mother's death. She rides her bicycle to school, only pausing to say hi to her Uncle August. When she turns her bicycle to help him get the newspaper, she almost gets run over by popular mean girl Darcy and her equally mean friends. They mock her as she crashes against the trash cans and scraps her knee. At school, Claire finds her father, Jonathan, dumpster diving with his friend Carl. Feeling embarrassed, she tells them to go away. Jonathan points out they're across the street and not at the actual school, but the students can see them anyway and are already whispering things behind her back. Jonathan asks her about her knee wound, and when he hears she visited August, he scolds her since they're not supposed to talk to him. Class ignores that order and finally convinces him to leave. Afterward, Claire joins her friends June and Meredith to hang up a banner they made. A boy takes the chance to take a picture of Claire's rear, and Darcy throws a drink at the banner, ruining it. Claire is also sad to notice that her crush Paul has a new girlfriend. During class, Ryan tries telling Claire that he liked the banner, but she only has eyes for Paul. Meanwhile, Jonathan and Carl are dumpster diving at the cemetery when Jonathan finds a beautiful old box. He can't open it, but decides to keep it anyway. At lunchtime, Claire and her friends are mocking Darcy, who hears them laughing and confronts them in front of everyone. Claire explains she called Darcy the ultimate smegma, which is a groin secretion produced by both men and women. Darcy slaps her for the insult, and Claire immediately returns it, so Darcy pushes her to the floor. A furious Claire retaliates by tackling Darcy and starting a fight on top of a table. All the students cheer or record the fight as the girls roll on the floor with no signs of stopping. An adult has to pull Claire away, and when Darcy tries to attack her again, Paul picks her up to carry her out of the cafeteria. When Claire goes home, Jonathan announces he's got her an early birthday present, but Claire isn't very excited. She finds the package on her bed and opens it to see the pretty box. There's some Chinese writing on it that she can translate as 7 wishes, but she fails to open it. That afternoon, Claire discovers that Darcy posted a video of the fight, but not how she started it, so everyone takes her side in the comments. She also posted a picture of Jonathan dumpster diving, and now people are calling Claire Garbage Girl. Remembering that the box said 7 wishes, Claire grabs it and wishes for Darcy to go rot. At that moment, she hears Max at the door and opens it for him, but Max refuses to enter the room and growls at the box. In the middle of the night while Claire is asleep, the box opens and plays some music. Claire feels uncomfortable but never wakes up, and the box closes itself. After having a sleepover with some friends, Darcy wakes up and goes to the bathroom only to discover her legs are rotting. When she looks in the mirror, she screams at the rotting, appearing on her face too. The noise wakes up her friends, who immediately take pictures. Later at school, the photos go viral and everyone makes fun of Darcy. When Claire gets home, she takes a picture of the box, wanting to find out more about it. At that moment, she realizes she hasn't seen Max in a while. She goes looking for him and follows a noise under the deck. Suddenly, something falls, and Claire is horrified to notice it's Max's body being eaten by rats. Afterward, Jonathan and Carl bury Max, and Claire cries because the dog had been a gift from her mother. The next day, Claire shows her Chinese teacher the box pictures to ask him about the words she couldn't understand. However, he explains this is ancient Chinese, so she'll have to ask a scholar. Ryan overhears this and tells her he has a cousin who could help, but she turns him down. In the evening, Claire makes a post remembering Max. She's interrupted by a message from Meredith, who tells her to check Paul's social media. After looking at Paul's photos, Claire grabs the box and wishes for Paul to fall madly in love with her. The next morning, Paul ignores his girlfriend to talk to Claire. While the box opens to play its music, August is getting a bath ready. Unfortunately, he slips and falls inside the tub, hitting his head and dying in the process. When Claire goes home, she sees August's death on the news, and Jonathan says, "It's good riddance." Since the family ignored him for years, he doesn't think August left them anything. Then Claire tries to go to her room and trips on some stuff her dad salvaged, so she yells at him for bringing trash to the house. Tired of being poor, Claire runs to her room and grabs the box to wish for August to leave her everything. Sometime later, Jonathan gets a call informing him that August left his fortune to Claire. The family immediately moves to August's fancy house, and Claire gets a new phone plus her own car. She goes shopping for nice clothes with her friends, they get a makeover, and buy lots of snacks. The new look is noticed by Paul. In the evening, Claire is shocked to see the box opening and playing music. Meanwhile, Claire's former neighbor is using her garbage disposal and hears a strange noise coming from the machine. She turns it off to take a closer look, but she doesn't notice anything, so she turns it on again only for her braid to get caught in it. Since the machine is pulling her down, she can't reach the button again, and eventually her scalp is torn off. The woman's neck lands on the edge of the disposal and breaks. killing her. The next day, Jonathan shows Claire that he's found some of Johanna's old paintings. Claire is worried she may end up like her mother, but Jonathan promises to take care of her to avoid that from happening. Moments later, Claire finds Jonathan playing the saxophone, which he hadn't touched since Johanna died. This means he's making an effort to move on. That night, Claire keeps dreaming about the box. Suddenly, she wakes up and notices a shadow moving outside. She rushes out to check, but she can't see anyone. The next day, Paul breaks up with his girlfriend and immediately asks Claire out, but she says she'll think about it. Later, she searches for the symbols from the box on the internet, but she can't find any information, so she has no choice but to ask Ryan for help. On the way to see his cousin, Ryan and Claire bond over memories from the first grade and their belief in the multiverse. Eventually, they meet with Gina, who thinks the box appears to be a version of a Chinese wish pot. You're supposed to write your wish on a piece of paper and put it in the pot, then wait for it to come true. Gina translates the text, noticing it promises to grant 7 wishes, and that there are rules. The wish maker must touch the box to make the wish, and getting rid of the box will undo all the wishes. The box also has the name Lu Mei, so they search it on the internet and find an old legend. In 1910, the bubonic plague took over China, and Lu Mei's family were suspected of being infected, so they were quarantined in a train car. The whole family died of a heat stroke and dehydration, except for Lu Mei. Wanting revenge, she took the family's most valuable object, which was a music box, and took it to a temple. She prayed for 7 days and 7 nights until a demon answered. Then Lu Mei became very wealthy, and all her enemies were defeated. 12 years later, she self-deleted with opium. There are some sentences on the box. One part says that something happens after the music ends, but Gina can't translate the rest. She takes some pictures of the box and promises to contact a scholar friend. On her way home, Claire discovers that Jonathan is still dumpster diving and yells at him, refusing to hear his side of the story. When she gets home, she grabs the box to wish her dad wasn't so embarrassing. That night, Jonathan appears as a cool saxophone player that June finds attractive. Meanwhile, Gina receives an email from her friend with the full translation of the box and thinks it's messed up. At that moment, the box opens and a storm causes the power to go out in her apartment. Gina goes to the balcony for better signal and leaves a message on Ryan's phone saying the box text is freaking her out. Suddenly, the door closes behind her and causes her to drop her phone, so she returns to her apartment. Because of the darkness, she trips on the carpet and falls on top of a bull statue that stabs her with its horn, instantly killing her. The next morning, Ryan is horrified to find her body and the translation. He rushes to school and tells Claire that the remaining text says the box requires a blood price. Ryan keeps asking if Claire's made any wishes, but she avoids answering. During lunch, Paul invites Claire to sit at his table, but the popular kids hate seeing her and walk away. Later, an edited picture appears on social media showing Claire grabbing trash from a dumpster. When she goes home, she takes the box and wishes to become the most popular girl in school. In the evening, Paul invites Claire to a party and everyone claps when she arrives. After dancing for a while, Paul and Claire kiss. That night, Claire dreams about her mother's death again, but this time the box appears in the dream too. When she wakes up, she sees someone outside recording her. Claire tries chasing after the man, but he's faster and gets to escape. Suddenly, someone appears behind her, but it's just her dad. When she tries to explain what's happening, she realizes it all started with the box, so she hides it in a vent. The next day, Claire visits her former neighbor. Nobody answers the door, but she smells a terrible stench. Claire goes inside and is horrified to find the body in the kitchen. Later at school, Claire gets to sit with the popular kids, but she doesn't feel comfortable and goes looking for Meredith and June, who aren't happy about the way she's been ignoring them. Claire convinces them to hear her out and tells them about the deaths and the box, which she has chained up. Meredith thinks it's a coincidence and calls Claire selfish for asking for dumb things instead of curing cancer. After a short argument, June convinces Claire it's better if she gets rid of the box. Claire goes outside to do so, but she hears Jonathan playing the saxophone and decides to keep it after all. Sometime later at a party, Claire is kissing Paul in his car when she finds another woman's clothes. Then she checks Paul's phone and discovers a bunch of pictures of her, which means he's the guy who has been sneaking into her garden. Claire breaks up with him, although he refuses to accept it. At that moment, the box opens and a decoration falls on top of a bonfire at the party. Meredith pulls June out of danger just in time to save her. Meanwhile, Jonathan is on his way to a gig only for his car to get a flat tire. While changing it, Jonathan almost gets run over by 2 racing cars, but luckily he dodges them. Then he accidentally kicks his spare tire and hits another car, causing it to bounce. It almost decapitates him, but he dodges the tire too. After the party, the girls stay at a fancy hotel, and Claire confesses to June that she didn't get rid of the box. Meredith takes the elevator, and it suddenly stops, so she gets stuck. In just a few seconds, it opens the door before going down again at a dangerous speed. The cables break, and the elevator crashes on the ground, killing Meredith. After the police arrive, June blames Meredith's death on Claire. At that moment, Ryan arrives and takes Claire to his house to show her his research. Every person who owned the box lived a fancy and successful life. but all of them were surrounded by death and ended up self-deleting in mysterious ways, like the man who was found locked in a basement during a house fire. Their conversation is interrupted when Claire gets hundreds of texts from Paul asking her to get back together. Claire has a breakdown and Ryan yells at her when he hears she's made 5 wishes already, but he still agrees to help her destroy the box. They throw it into the fire and hit it with a hammer, but nothing happens, so Claire hides it in a vent again. That night, Claire wakes up from another nightmare to find Paul in her room with a knife. He says he can't live without her and uses the knife to prove it. Claire screams and calls an ambulance that quickly takes him away. The next day, Claire discovers the box has disappeared. At that moment, the police arrive to take the fancy house and all the money because August never paid taxes. The family moves back to the old house. Claire goes to school on her bicycle again, and Jonathan goes back to dumpster diving. Darcy is now healed, so she goes back to school too and harasses Claire again, causing her to have another breakdown in the bathroom. That morning, Claire discovers that June has the box in her locker. June admits she stole it to protect everyone, but Claire is furious and takes it back before running off. When June follows her to stop her, they begin fighting over the box, and Claire accidentally pushes June down the stairs, killing her. Ryan sees all this and chases after Claire, who refuses to give up the box and ignores his warnings. At home, Claire freaks out, feeling like she's going crazy. After lots of crying, she wishes her mother hadn't self-deleted. At that moment, a revived Johanna appears in Claire's room as if she never left and reveals 2 more daughters. The family celebrates Claire's birthday and has a wonderful time together. After the party, Claire looks at Johanna's new paintings and discovers one of the box, which makes her realize her mother also used the wishes, and her death had been the box's fault. Suddenly, Claire hears the music from the box and notices Jonathan working with Carl outside. She runs to the garden to warn them, but it's too late. Carl's laddie.